Thursday, September 26, 2013. I'm Jimmy Principe.
I'm Sydney Foster.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 43. Your last call for Tech News of the Week. Tonight, Jimmy's kindled the flame as BlackBerry's House of Cards fall. Sydney has a new toy with another on the way. And I am still steamed up by Valve's releases. But we start tonight with China trying something really interesting. Experimenting with internet freedom. So China may or may not be experiencing some modicum of internet freedom, if only in a 29 square kilometer area of Shanghai. According to the South China Morning Post, which is out of Hong Kong, internet restrictions may be lifted in the proposed Shanghai Free Trade Zone that is launching at the end of the month. Within the zone, goods can be imported and exported without a customs declaration. Restrictions on foreign investment have also been relaxed within the area. And the speculation is that in order to further set it apart, you'll be able to access Twitter, Facebook, and the New York Times, all of which normally get blocked by the Great Firewall. Microsoft has even formed a partnership with China-based Best TV New Media Corp to produce a streaming gaming box for the area, as it will also not suffer from China's ban on game consoles, which they find harmful to children.
Since 2000.
Alas, at least the internet aspect is not a sure bet. Government sources were quoted on Wednesday by people.com.cn that the internet in the free trade zone will be managed in the way that the rest of China is. So we kind of have conflicting sources on this. That notwithstanding, how could a breach in the firewall affect China as a whole?
Well, I think the saying, give them an inch, they'll take a mile, comes to mind, because if all of a sudden Western news sources like the New York Times, for example, are available and the New York Times publishes something that is critical of the Chinese government, then they're going to see it. And
yes.
Presumably, if this is as open as these sources at the South China Morning Post think it's going to be, then they're going to see it, and then word of mouth or whatever else. It's hard to, not that China couldn't do it, but it would be hard to contain that within that 29 square kilometer area.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I wrote my undergraduate thesis on how political revolution can be affected by the internet. And the conclusion I reached after looking at 5 different case studies, one of which was China, is that there's a direct relation between how free and open the internet is in a country and how well it's able to be used for political revolution. Now, that sounds kind of obvious now, but in reality, you had to dig into cases to see that, right? So you have...
Well, this was a few years ago.
Yeah,
it's
this
important
was
to note.
2008, 2009 when I'm writing this.
Right before the Arab Spring.
This is before Arab Spring. It kind of predicts Arab Spring, right? So it worked really well in the places that had a lot of internet freedom, like Egypt, and didn't really work at all in places that have almost no internet freedom, like Iran. But so what I looked at Otpor, which was in Yugoslavia in 2001, and then the Orange Revolution in 2004 in Ukraine. And I pit that against Myanmar and China. And so Myanmar and China both had a high level of internet security that was government run, and so the government was able to successfully quelch the online organization. Yugoslavia and Ukraine had almost no government run protection, government run, firewalls and stuff, and so the internet was able to run rampant and basically overthrow the government. Now, those were also generally freer societies already, which is part of why there wasn't the huge amount of internet filtering. But what I'm really interested in is, given that was my conclusion after studying in depth these 4 case studies, what does this mean if there is a crack in the firewall? Because, like you suggested, Jimmy, that news spreads. And Shanghai is also a place of a lot of very educated Chinese. And so if you have a lot of very educated Chinese that are able to digitally organize using social networking, then theoretically Shanghai could become a place, like a epicenter of the rebellion. Because it's also going to have some of the highest internet penetration. There's even word that non-Chinese telcos could be providing service in the area.
See, and that's why this whole thing just kind of blows my mind. I guess I'm skeptical or pessimistic. I'm not sure what the correct word is, but I just kind of blows my mind that the Chinese government is allowing this at all. It just seems unlikely to me.
Well, the other thing is, it's important to note that it's a 29 square kilometer area, so it's pretty easy. If any kind of rebellion, let me put it this way, if the Chinese government were to get any wind that there was going to be a rebellion, it would be completely possible that they could shut down the free trade zone entirely.
Right, but I feel like, once the information gets in and, theoretically having relaxed controls on internet in that area would allow it to get in, from there it can spread in maybe less technologically advanced ways. So, if the root of a revolution might be in that one area, but theoretically before any actual revolution would take place, the branches would have spread out from that central location.
No matter how far they run, they're still going to burn with fiery passion?
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank you, Tobascus.
I think there's another angle to look at here, though. And this is something that I think Tom Merritt raised on Tech News Today, is that this could just be a really easy way to be spied on. Right? Fine. So they open up Facebook and Twitter and NYT and all of that for the foreigners and the Chinese that are in that area, and then monitor everything that's happening. They don't block it like the firewall does, but they monitor every keystroke you're making, and they still know exactly what they're saying. So you have access to these sites, fine, but that doesn't mean you have unfettered access without the Chinese watching you. Our own government essentially watches us, and this is a democracy, y'all.
Oh, you can always be assured that anything you get on in that free trade zone will be monitored.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one of the ways this could play into my previous thesis is this isn't actually an end of internet security run by the government. This is a change in internet security run by the government, from totally locked down to always watching, which is somewhat terrifying, right?
They've got the great model of, the NSA.
Right. I mean, honestly, what this probably is a switch from the Chinese model to the American model of internet security. For instance, I don't think you could use the internet to overthrow the U.S. government. I'm not saying I'm trying to. Let's be clear. I am not trying to overthrow the U.S. government.
All of you wonderful CIA people that are listening to us, we're not trying to overthrow the government.
Hello, NSA.
It's okay. We're friends with most of them.
Yeah. But I don't think you could do it because of the NSA filtering, which theoretically is what the NSA filtering is for, right? So there's that people can't attack the United States, and is implied in that can't attack the U.S. government. So I think this is, I think you raised the perfect point. What this is probably not actually internet freedom. The Chinese just have all the glorious internet freedom that we have, which is,
well, and we can say in some ways that it is a step more in the right direction, because openness on the internet and having that information available is definitely a good thing. However, with a what would you call the Chinese system right now?
An autocratic system.
Yeah, that's okay. With that kind of a system in place, they would be more likely to abuse that information than the abuses that we're seeing from the NSA.
Right.
And in the United States. And we have more recourse than the Chinese people would have.
Whereas we don't know of citizens getting arrested just for saying nasty things about Obama, right? We have no evidence that that's happening. If you look at the Tea Party rhetoric, you'd never know it. But actually, there's no evidence that that's happening, okay? Where in China, there are plenty of, it's purely anecdotal evidence, right? I'm not Chinese, and we don't have a Chinese correspondent. But there's evidence that happens, right? That people get taken off, or imprisoned, or in trouble for what they say on the internet. So there's already evidence that China misuses their filtering abilities, or however I guess they don't think they misuse it. I think they properly protect their people, which is actually properly protect their position.
Protect the government.
Yeah. But from cracks in the firewall to Valve opening up. See what I did there? It's going to get better. As expected, Valve has let out a series of Steam releases this week. No. Yes. One on Monday.
They boiling over?
They're boiling over with Steam announcements. We keep going. One on Monday, one on Wednesday, and then one is expected tomorrow, Friday, as this is recorded Thursday evening. On Monday, they announced Steam OS, or as I keep calling it, SteamOS.
No.
Because they don't put a space.
No,
so,
veto.
SteamOS.
Do you call it iOS?
I called it WebOS instead of WebOS. Same idea. See? What SteamOS, or SteamOS for clarity's sake, is a Linux-based operating system to be used for gaming in the living room. Kind of what we expected. What's really interesting is it's going to have special tie-ins with graphics cards makers getting over the main issue of Linux gaming. That was the complicated graphics cards drivers update cycle. If you think it's bad on Windows, imagine how bad it was on Linux. They think they've solved that issue, which I think is actually one of its key advantages. That and it's designed for that 10-foot being living rooms.
It utilizes that big picture mode they already have.
It's kind of the next stage of big picture mode.
Right.
On Wednesday, it got even more interesting. They announced a hardware initiative not called Steambox, but called Steam Machines, which is even weirder. What it is they're working...
Did they get Robert Fulton involved?
Steam Engine?
They are working with multiple hardware partners to offer a range of devices, bringing customer choice to the living room gaming experience. While the final hardwares are not available, they're in development with a plan for release sometime in 2014, Valve will be sending out 300 beta hardware units to the public for testing. Ooh. Being a game developer of like Portal, the application process for the beta program is somewhat elaborate. Is an elaborate quest.
It's not that elaborate.
Well, it counts as a quest though. Before October 25th, you must go to your quest page within Steam, join the Steam Universe community group, agree to the terms of service, make 10 Steam friends, create a public profile, and play a game using a gamepad in big picture mode.
I don't know what half of that means.
Okay, so...
Where's the Quest tab?
Steam is a software for selling video games on PCs.
That I know.
Created by Valve, okay? There's also some social networking plugs. So you can friend people on Steam like you can on like Xbox Live.
Got it.
And so you can see what they're playing and have an easy time to do multiplayer gaming with them.
Well, and then you can chat on a window that kind of surrounds the game.
Right, like Origin.
Except
but
less bad.
better.
Except it works.
Yeah, but
you've
used Origin and not Steam, so that's why I draw the Origin analogy.
Yes.
Okay. There are public profiles you can have within this social networking thing. Steam has something called Big Picture Mode. What Big Picture Mode is, it's a gaming interface for the living room. So to make a PC work more like a game console. So there's not like little fiddly buttons and stuff.
Got it.
Okay? And then you can play... Most PC games at this point in history have gamepad support. So you can actually just plug in an Xbox 360 controller into your PC and have it just work.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I have. Right. This Xbox 360 controller that I have is just for my PC. I don't own an Xbox.
Right.
But I use it for playing games with Steam.
Yeah, and the Xbox 360 controller is a great controller. So it's a good option. So, at the time of this recording, they have not yet announced their third piece of news. That's coming in about 15 hours. But they have teased that it will be something to do with a controller or some form of interface. The teaser image that's up right now is like a cat sitting in a living room and the picture of a Super Nintendo controller.
I'm looking at the cat. He doesn't seem to have any hints that he's planning on sharing with us.
Right, but you see the picture of that thing that looks like the Super Nintendo controller. So with this, my big question here, though, like I'm interested in this. This is fascinating. I love me gaming hardware news, no matter who's doing it. You know, I even talked about the NVIDIA Shield, which I still think is kind of dumb. But with this coming out well after the new consoles, does this really stand a chance?
I don't know. How much are they going to charge you for it?
Aha! There's the kicker.
That's the rub. We have no idea.
Well,
I think that has a big effect on whether or not this is able to be successful.
well, let's be clear. The operating system itself is free. They've made that clear. It is a free and open operating system. So you can build whatever dirt cheap Linux box you want and install SteamOS on it, and it will work.
Which appeals to a lot of the people that use Steam already.
And it certainly appeals to a lot of folks who like Linux already. Now, what gets interesting is they're talking about a variety of hardware, which we can assume means a variety of price points. The thing we don't know at all is what is the bottom of that price point.
Now, it is important to note that this device will not necessarily have to run the game itself. One of the features of SteamOS is if you have a powerful computer, like I do, for gaming, but it's not in your, well, let me rephrase that. It's not in your media center. You can put a Steam box in it and stream the game over your home internet.
Right, like the PS4 can with the Vita and the Vita TV, or like the NVIDIA Shield can do with the NVIDIA
it's actually
graphics
exactly
card.
like the NVIDIA Shield. And so presumably that is a play to try to lower the cost of entry for these devices. And I think that there's going to be a big cost difference between those that have, just the streaming ability, really stripped down, almost like Chromecast size devices, and then you'll have full powered computer devices.
But look, I mean, if they're offering an $100 box that interfaces with your gaming computer already, and look, they've talked all along about latency. And so if anyone's going to get the latency problem right on streaming over the internet or streaming over home Wi-Fi, it's going to be Valve. So if they've got that latency issue solved, then I think a $100 or $200 box that goes in my living room that links up with, well, the PC the powerful PCs that I have in the studio that also get used for gaming occasionally, that's wonderful. Because I would much rather game, no matter what platform I'm on, I'd rather game from my couch than from my desk. Because fundamentally I'm a console gamer.
Here's an interesting thought. So Trey, you once upon a time backed a small Android-powered device that was supposed to go in your living room. Called the Ouya, I do believe.
Yeah, I did.
But one of the reasons why Ouya is building around Android is because Android is a free operating system and, other reasons. But one of the things is that Android is free. So presumably Ouya could re-release a new Ouya with the SteamOS.
Right, but because
Android is just a Linux-based.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Linux and Linux. Okay, the Ouya had other issues than the operating system.
Right, the controller was weird and there were
it was
other things.
Awful, absolutely awful.
Well, and
kind of janky.
Did the Ouya really have are the games even comparable between the Ouya and what you can get on Steam?
Theoretically,
this is me speaking
no.
from complete ignorance.
Theoretically, these will be more like Steam will be more like full PC
actual
games,
video
like
games.
like actual games. like you can be playing Portal
Whereas
2.
the Ouya is more like the types of games that you can get on mobile devices. Is that correct?
Okay.
Right.
And whereas Ouya was trying to create a platform like Steam where they'd get real games too, and I don't want to actually classify mobile games as not real games. I play a ton of mobile games, but they're not the kind of they're not the kind of thing I want to play in my living room. Okay, I don't want to play Puzzle Agent on my television. I want to play Puzzle Agent when I'm stuck in a waiting room. I want to play Grand Theft Auto 5 in my living room on my couch. Okay,
or The Last of Us, I
love AAA games, and so if I'm going to spend a lot of money in a system, it is going to be to play AAA games. Ouya wanted to create a space for that, whereas Valve with Steam already has an in with that, and they talked about what is it like 93 games or whatever it was, large number of games that are on Steam that already run on Linux. And we know any first party. Guess what? Valve makes Dota 2. This means Dota 2 is going to run on this. Now, you'd never want to play Dota 2 with a controller, but this is just, one of the biggest games.
It's an example.
It's one of the biggest games in the world right now. And certainly one of the biggest genres in the world right now. MOBAs. Massive online battle arenas. Anyways.
I'm going to go with you on that
massive multiplayer online battle arenas. MOBAs. That's one of the biggest games in the world right now, and that's a Valve property. So we for sure that's going to come. The next Portal, that's for sure going to come. And so, and a lot of indie games are already working with this. So I don't know what big AAA from big developers. I don't know how much Linux support they have.
Well,
but that's besides the point. Almost.
You're stuck on the Linux support thing, though. I'm going to go back to my
the streaming
comment. Was you can put a SteamOS Linux-based operating system on it. Thing costs $100, has a controller coupled with it, and you can stream from your hardcore PC to that. So it's totally possible that you can have that $100 device compete with, Roku or Apple TV, because they did say that they're going to be bringing movies and streaming services to this as well.
What we just don't know is what are going to be the hardware requirements for that streaming. My bet is you're going to need a little more powerful something. I think you're going to need more like a $200 device to get this to really work.
So like a original boxy box?
Original boxy box or something equivalent to an Xbox 360. Okay? In terms of power.
Okay.
Which
I'll buy a used Xbox 360 if that's what I need to do.
Well, no.
And root it.
No, I wouldn't recommend that because those aren't x86 based. So
they aren't exactly the most stable things in the world.
No, you could do original PS3 though, because those actually could run Linux. So that would be interesting.
That'd be fascinating.
Yeah. So Valve may be trying to establish the future of gaming, but it's time to check in with smartphones of the past. How is old BlackBerry doing?
Oh, BlackBerry, take heart. You're wanted. Well,
sort of.
This week, Fairfax Financial, a Canadian financial holdings company, made a bid to buy BlackBerry. That's right. You didn't hear me wrong. Buy BlackBerry for $9 a share, which comes out to about $4.7 billion.
Pocket change.
Now, a billion here, a billion there. Eventually, it starts to add up to real money. It's important to note that Fairfax Financial is a current shareholder of BlackBerry, and they own about 10% of the lesser fruit company. Now, although the bid is out there, it merely expresses that Fairfax has an interest in BlackBerry and does not guarantee the company will be purchased.
Yeah, they've said, 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's 6 weeks until November 4th, 2013. It allows Fairfax Financial to get a look at BlackBerry's financials, kind of see where they are, which is what a lot of companies did with Palm before Palm went under.
Yeah.
Purchased
by HP.
I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
That too.
So until November 4th, 2013, so 6 weeks, about 6 weeks from now, BlackBerry can continue to solicit bids, but if they back out of the bid, they owe Fairfax Financial 30 to 50 cents per share, which comes out to something like $150 million to $250 million. So I really have to ask the very blatantly obvious question. Why?
Well,
just why?
There's two theories I've heard. One, this is kind of to make BlackBerry seem desirable. Fairfax Financial stands to make money by driving up BlackBerry's sale price.
Right. They purchased shares at $17 a share.
Right, and they would like to get closer to that if a sale ever takes place. So
right.
This is, okay, we've set up a minimum bid. Anyone else that wants to buy BlackBerry is now going to have to pay more than $9 a share.
They put a reserve on BlackBerry.
They essentially put a reserve on BlackBerry. You're absolutely right, Sydney. That's a great analogy. The other theory I have heard is that I subscribe to is that BlackBerry's a Canadian company. This keeps BlackBerry Canadian.
In the family, as it were.
But no, I mean we're not Canadian, so whatever. But Finland's freaking out and making Steven Elop take a lower bonus because Finland's freaking out that Nokia's leaving Finland. So I think the same thing is happening in Canada with BlackBerry, right? They don't want BlackBerry to cease being a Canadian company. And so I think there was talk about the Canadian Pensions Board buying BlackBerry as well, again, to keep it in the country.
But then what?
Well, then what is probably Fairfax Financial either strips it for parts or attempts to turn it around. They have a history of doing both of those things.
Yeah, let me see. There was a great quote from the chairman of Fairfax Financial. Let me see if I can find it. It was from All Things D. Where is it? Yeah, he said that quote, is BlackBerry going to turn around in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? No, this is what he said last year. But then he said, quote, but if you're looking 4 or 5 years, we make investments over 4 or 5 years.
Right, and so they have some sort of.
So apparently they think that there's some way that BlackBerry
They
can
have
turn
a
this around.
plan.
Well, it's certainly going to be out of the consumer devices market, right? Like, I think that's pretty
Right. Well, and talking about like how BlackBerry is known for their security and that the name, except if you're in India, the name for BlackBerry security is one of the best in the world. And so by taking, yeah, here it is. This was in a March letter to Fairfax Financial shareholders from what's his name? Prem Watsa. I'm going to go with that.
That's a good name.
Quote, the brand name, a security system second to none, a distribution network across 650 telecom carriers worldwide, a 79 million subscriber base, enterprise customers accounting for 90% of the Fortune 500, and almost exclusive usage by governments in Canada, the U.S., and the U.K.
That doesn't sound so. When you put it that way, it doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, let's see what else they have. A huge original patent portfolio, an outstanding new operating system developed by QNX. Well, outstanding. I think that might be stepping a little far.
QNX is great.
$2.9 billion in cash with no debt.
Look at it this way. Also, Fairfax Financial is getting BlackBerry's $2 billion in patents and $2.7 billion in cash. That thing pays for itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of $4.7 billion. That's kind of the minimum valuation,
right?
In that sense.
So
those patents are worth it.
BlackBerry's star may have completely fallen, but Apple's seems to start high and keep on rising.
Frickin' Apple. I mean, yay, Apple. I love Apple.
Yay, Apple.
So, you know how last week everyone decided that since Apple didn't release its 5C pre-order numbers the weekend after pre-order started, it clearly meant that they were doomed. Well, news of their demise may have been somewhat exaggerated. Apple found itself sitting pretty at day's end on Monday when they closed with their shares up 5%. And this rise was due to an epic 9 million new iPhones sold during the first 3 days of sale, which blew analyst estimates of 6 million units sold out of the water. Now, it does help when we're thinking about these numbers to remember that the phones launched in 11 countries as opposed to the 9 countries for the iPhone 5 launch.
And one of those countries is the largest country in the world.
And one of those countries is China. Also, the deal with NTT Docomo in Japan, also
that's right.
kind of a big deal. And also that we are talking about phones plural here, not just one phone, but the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5C that launched together. So that definitely helped as far as these sale numbers. And speaking of the double phone rainbow over at Apple, you may be wondering, and many people were wondering prior to the sales, exactly how the numbers were going to break down between the two new models. So according to Localytics, the iPhone 5S outsold the 5C by about 3.4 times during the first weekend of sales. So sorry, 5C, you're pretty. But look,
what a terrible thing to say. You don't have the brains,
you're
but
pretty.
At least you're pretty. God, it's awful.
Oh.
It's a perfect analogy, but
It's true. I wouldn't say it to a person, but I'll say it to a phone.
To quote Mr. Bennett, some may prefer a stupid wife. You didn't know you were going to get your Pride and Prejudice quotes on this show.
We are full of literary joy. So looking at all the numbers out of Apple, can we safely say that they have finally found the product that everyone has been harping on them to make all year with the Apple needs to find their product that's going to save them? Apple is doomed. Did they find it in the iPhone 5S? And can we say at this point that the 5C has not been a success, or do we think it's too soon to make a call on that front?
Oddly enough, I answer no to both questions. No, this is not the product that is Apple's amazing turnaround. But also, I think this proves that Apple may not actually need all that much saving. Okay? Yes, they found a way by releasing in more markets to goose it to look like they sold an epic number of iPhones. Guess what?
And they're selling twice as many phones.
Yeah, but
types of phones.
But clearly, that didn't make a difference. That didn't make a difference.
Okay, I'm surprised it was only 3.4 times more iPhone 5s's.
Yeah, so keep in mind that includes pre-orders though. So if you take into account pre-orders, that's why. So I was at the Apple Store. Some of y'all may saw on Facebook and Twitter. I was at the Apple Store at Lenox Square here in Atlanta for the release of the 5S, and we'll be talking about that in the next segment. Our thoughts on the 5S because we have one here in studio somewhere. There it is.
You have one there in studio.
We have one here in studio. And the guy the blue shirt that checked me out had not sold a single 5C all day.
Why would you wait in line for a 5C though when you could pre-order it?
Right,
you could not pre-order the 5S.
That's my point. Is I don't think Apple needs that much saving right now. I still think they need a new product line this year to maintain their position. But the iPhone 5...
The Mac Pro is going to come out at some point.
Yeah, I want that thing. That's not going to be the epic seller, but I do want that thing.
And I can use it as a trash can.
Look, Apple beat analyst expectations. Analysts thought 5 to 8 million. Apple hit 9 million. When was the last time Apple beat analyst expectations? We've been talking for months how analysts say this and how is it ever going to happen? And we thought that same thing. And then they blew that out of the water. So good on Apple, right? It's a good product. They found a way to market it, and they found a need within the people. I think the iPhone 5C is going to have a really big Christmas. I just don't think it's the phone for early adopters.
Possibly red and green versions.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, there's already a red version that's
there
very
is a
nice.
product
and
red,
there's a green version.
So it's not a very Christmassy green, though.
No, and it's not a very Christmassy red. It's more pink. But
no, they have the product red.
They have the product red case. They don't have a product red 5C.
Oh, I thought they had a product red 5C.
It's the leather case for the 5S.
We recommend it, Apple.
Yeah.
Just saying. Get on that. Christmas colors.
Christmas colors.
You heard it here.
And next year. Next year's 5C will have Christmas colors. Good on Apple. This is good. It's a good product. They sold a lot of them. Congratulations.
Yeah, but I'll be curious to see what the staying power of the device is. Because, it sold a bunch right at the outset. And there's always pent-up demand.
That's more phones than BlackBerry sold last quarter.
Or year.
Yeah.
Possibly. But I don't know. That's based on absolutely no statistics at all.
That's based on my memory.
Please do not quote me on that. But anyways, no, the point is that, it had an amazing first weekend. And I'm not going to take that away from them. However, I do want to look at...
Okay, Kanye.
hey, you did good. But anyways, can they keep going? Can this phone have the staying power, that the other phones have managed to have?
I don't see why not. It had a bigger opening than the other ones. You look at the smartphone market. All of the smartphone options, save a couple, are already out for the year, right?
And so we're still waiting on the Nexus 5. And the ridiculous
Lumia,
number of devices that Lumia is going to announce in October.
The Lumia 2510 and the Lumia 1520 or whatever the hell
1520 is the big screen one. But there's rumors that there will be other stuff too. But anyways.
Right. So we're missing some Lumias and we're missing the Nexus 5, but everything else is out, including the Apple's main competitor in the Galaxy S.
And Samsung's Samsung said they were going to release, what was that operating system that they're developing?
Oh Lord.
That they're going to release a phone for that probably by the end of the year.
But I don't
that
think
was a story way back, like 6 months ago.
But I don't think that's going to be... And they've also announced this week that they're going to be releasing a curved glass phone in October. But anyways, the iPhone's main competitors are in the marketplace.
Yeah,
and so if you weren't...
S4, it's out there.
So I don't think at this point people are waiting for the S5.
No, that's true.
So I think this is going to have I think this is a chance to have as much staying power as anything else. It will start dropping off when the S5 comes out and will pick back up. There's also been rumors that Apple's going to be moved to an every 6 month cycle rather than every year cycle. I don't know if that. I doubt it. But if he does that, I think they're sitting even prettier than we think they are. They released the iPhone 6 in February or in April, like they used to do with iPads, and to do an April and an October release for iPhones. Look, I don't know.
Nuts.
I don't know.
That sounds crazy, but it was one of the rumors that was floating around when we found out the iPhone 5S was not going to have a big screen.
Well,
I think
it just seems crazy based on it. You know, it already seems like every time Apple releases a new iPhone, people say, okay, it's not that different from the last iPhone. So to be releasing them more frequently seems like a mistake.
That's probably true. Yes, that probably is a mistake. Something else I found interesting in the news that's come out is the usual teardowns of the hardware took place, right? And so turns out that the 64 gigabyte 5S costs like $218 to make, right?
Okay, that's on par with...
Right. It retails for $850, and it costs...
No one pays that.
Well, no, carriers do. And you do pay that, just over time. Okay?
Right.
So the implied margins for each of the models is something like 70 to 74% for the 5S. Now, people have been freaking out on the internet, right? Going, oh my God, how they're ripping us off. They're making so much money off that. Let's be clear. There are other costs other than hardware. And I really brought this up just so I could
research and development.
Just so I could rant about this. There are two things that do not get taken into account for that Apple, we know, spends billions in. Marketing and R&D. Okay? That's why those phones cost what they do. Partly because Apple tries to make a very high margin on every device. We know that. We actually, at one point, were complaining because they were getting lower margins and it was hurting their stock price. So given that Apple gets traditionally high margins, they're also spending a ton on advertising and marketing and a ton on R&D. You don't buy a fingerprint sensor for fingerprint sensor company for no money.
Yeah.
So just come on, people.
You
yes.
also have to pay the people.
Right. I mean, they have huge amounts of overhead.
Well, and Apple's industrial design is superior to their main competitor,
right.
Samsung.
And they spend a lot. Johnny Ive doesn't come cheap.
Exactly. So there's a lot of reasons why that phone is so expensive. And that's also the same argument that pharmaceutical companies make for why their drugs are so expensive. But, you know, there is some validity to it.
There's some validity to it. It's interesting. The one thing that does get me right, okay, so the NAND flash unit, the memory unit, for the 16 gigabyte costs them $9.40. The NAND flash unit in the 64 gigabyte version costs
$12.15?
$29.
Oh.
And yet there is a $300 markup over that. So, okay.
Brilliant.
Apple is sneaky and clever with their margins. So we've all had hands-on time with the 5S, and I've had hands-on time with the 5S and the 5C. What are y'all's thoughts on this device, or these devices?
I'll let Sydney go first.
So I am the proud new owner of the 5S for several reasons. First of all, I had a 4, so I was kind of out of date with my iPhones. Also, I dropped it, as I think if you've watched recent shows, you saw the sad state of my 4.
It's a sad situation.
It was a sad situation. So this is a huge change for me. Now, me being me and being the least tech savvy one, I do kind of at this point have a hard time separating out what it is that I like about the phone from what it is that I like about iOS 7. Just because I didn't have that much experience with iOS 7 before switching phones. So that might kind of flavor my impressions. But overall, very, very happy with it. The fingerprint sensor, I understand it's mostly gimmicky, but I really love it. Mostly because it awes and amazes all of my students. And when I told them that they couldn't open my phone because it read my fingerprints, they didn't believe me. And then they tried it.
And it
was pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I remember when Trey got his 5 that I wasn't super happy with how it looked and like the change in size and everything from the 4, but I haven't been having a problem with that now that I have my own. So,
well, you also have the leather case for it, right?
Yes. It is
what do you
beautiful.
think of that?
I really like it. Now I haven't significantly dropped this phone yet, which is something
probably for the best.
It is something that I do frequently. Let's be honest. So I'm kind of anxious to see how that's going to happen. But as far as the case itself, I really like the feel of it. I love the look of it. And it seems solid enough, sturdy enough, so we shall see.
I was in the Apple line. The lines were bigger than last year. And I think the device you end up getting is the best iPhone 5 yet. Right? and arguably...
yeah.
And it is the best iPhone yet. It is a new phone. For anyone who says otherwise, look, there's a place you can go, and I'll tell you how to get there. It's a new phone. The fingerprint sensor was very easy to set up in store. I had that going within minutes. It is really seamless.
Yeah, it works well.
It works the way you'd want it to. It's actually faster than entering in a key code. Like my big concern with it wouldn't it just be faster to punch in a passcode, right? Like how Connect is actually slower than using a controller. This is actually faster. This is a gimmick that is faster than the old way.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it works well.
And it works well. And so there's absolutely a reason
to use it. For the record,
I
have not yet tried to set it up for Elliot.
So, yeah, the cat cannot
I'm disappointed.
But theoretically he could.
Disappointed.
I mean, besides that, that's the only feature you're really going to notice as different right off the bat. There's not yet that much software that really takes advantage of the 64-bit operating system, and the camera improvements are minor enough as to be kind of indistinguishable from the operating system. So really all we have to talk about here is that fingerprint sensor. Yes, it works. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it's useful.
Although the thing I would add to that is I got handed the iPhone 5S upon getting into Trey's Batmobile last week, and I couldn't put it down because Sydney it was Sydney's 5S, and it has the leather case on it, and it's just this wonderfully soft leather that like it just feels wonderful in the hand. And one of my gripes with the iPhone is because it's thinner and it has those hard edges that I don't find it particularly comfortable to hold.
I have mine in a book for that. For that reason.
Right. And I think that the leather case that Apple's come out with preserves the design aesthetic, but also makes it just like, if nothing else, ups it.
You want to snuggle it.
Definitely the classiest my iPhone has ever looked.
Yeah. It is...
Well, and the other nice thing is you can buy it and put it on your iPhone 5 if you want to, because it's the same form factor.
I believe so, yes.
And so I think that in a lot of ways that accessory might be a big deal, because in the same way that the smart cover was a big deal for the iPad 2. The iPad 2 was not a huge change over the original iPad, but they added the smart cover ability, and that was huge.
Yeah. I guess I'm the only one that's had hands-on time with the 5C. It does feel oddly solid. You would think
the way that your Lumia does?
Very similar to the way all Nokia phones have always felt. It does.
Personal defense.
It is a very nice feeling plastic phone. It does not feel like the way Samsung does plastic, which I feel like I could bend and break that thing.
Wait. I have a display for those of you watching the video version.
Yes, Jimmy is flexing the back.
This
of his
is the
phone.
back of my Samsung phone.
Right, and so the iPhone 5C feels very solid. It looks very nice. The colors are very bright. They do pop. They make for a great store display. I think they will have, in the long term, sell well, because I think it is just a fun new take on the iPhone 5.
And they'll sell better than the iPhone 5 would have in the same situation.
Right, correct. Which is all I think Apple is really trying to do.
Presumably cheap.
They slightly, only slightly.
Yeah, like this much. But
speaking about an improvement of this much, is this week's gadget.
So Monday, we saw Microsoft getting back up on the somewhat unsteady horse that is the Surface. At their event on Monday, Microsoft officially announced the Surface 2, and that is the successor to the Surface RT. RT has been dropped from the name.
Sensible naming convention.
Yeah, Surface.
Why don't you just stick with
Surface
it, Microsoft?
2. Yeah, they're good at counting. So the Surface 2 and the Surface Pro 2, as well as several new accessories. So this is something that we talked about a couple weeks ago. We were pretty sure all of this was coming, and pretty much what we thought was going to happen is what happened. So both of the new tablets are available for pre-order now and are expected to ship in mid to late October. Surface 2 starts at $449 for the 32GB model, while the 64GB version is $549. Now, the Surface Pro 2 comes with a lot more choices, which are, for the most part, too technical for me to break down. Lots of choices with gigabytes and RAM and many things. But basically, the cheapest one is $899, which gets you 64 gigabytes and 4 gigabytes of RAM. And then the most expensive one is $1,799, which gets you 512 gigabytes and 8 gigabytes of RAM.
That's actually a very powerful machine.
Yeah, wow.
That's a lot.
I wonder what kind of processor that thing is running, or the kind of GPU that thing is running.
Me not understanding.
Probably just the integrated Intel.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so these large prices and small prices still do not include any type of touch cover or type cover, as with the original Surface and Surface Pro. You have to purchase those separately, so that'll set you back another $119 or $129, whether you go with the touch cover or the type cover. But Microsoft is including 200 gigabytes of SkyDrive storage for 2 years at no extra charge. So yay, storage.
That's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool, and I kind of wish that I had that, but oh well. Now,
they also added Outlook to the Surface 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, now that's part of the included suite with RT, which continues to make RT more valuable than an iPad.
So as far as the new accessories, those you are going to have to wait on. So 3 new accessories announced. One is the power cover, which we did talk about a couple weeks ago. Basically, it's both a keyboard like the type cover, but also an external battery. And word on the street is that it will add up to about 50% more battery life. They also announced a docking station, which includes 3 USB 2.0 ports, 1 USB 3.0 port, audio in, audio out, and the ability to power 2 monitors. And last but not least, something that we didn't mention as far as accessories a couple weeks ago when we talked about this, is what is being called the music cover, which is just cool looking. Yeah. So basically, it's a soundboard as a touch cover. It's got sliders and all those things that soundboards have. And it comes kind of bundled with various like DJ software type stuff at what they're calling the Surface Music Kit. So pretty nifty. Those 3 new accessories, power cover, docking station, music cover, don't have a ship date yet, probably sometime next year. So you can get the new tablets, but no new accessories yet. But with all these wild and crazy changes to the new fancy Surfaces, do we think that Microsoft's Surface line has a fighting chance?
Well, I mean, maybe. They didn't do the one thing that I think could have really, clinched this, right?
And that they should have done, in my personal opinion.
The Surface 2, the second RT, is still an RT. It's running a Tegra 4 processor, so it is a newer processor. It's very powerful, very nice.
I think it's the first tablet to run a Tegra 2 processor.
The first one that Tegra 4. It's the first one that I know of.
My Zune HD runs a Tegra 2.
Yes. My Sony PS Vita runs a Tegra 3. So it's a very nice ARM-based processor. The issue is there exists in this world Bay Trail. And so Bay Trail is an x86-based Intel processor that should get, in theory, similar battery life, especially running something as low power as a Surface 2. So if you could conceivably get 10 hours of battery life out of a Surface 2 running a Bay Trail and have it just be a Windows 8.1 running everything that is Windows, that's the better deal. And that's what they should have done, and they didn't do it.
And Trey and I would both be in line to get one, as we said on the show 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
They didn't listen.
My thing is,
Ballmer.
I get the idea of RT, right? Because ARM offers so much better battery life. But if Bay Trail is what it's supposed to be, why on earth do you need to be backing ARM when none of your other software is there? If the software isn't there, there isn't a point. The problem with Surface 2 and the problem with Surface RT has nothing to do with hardware. It's great hardware. They have that figured out, and I argue it is some of the best tablet hardware on the market. But it is the worst tablet operating system on the market simply because of the lack of apps in the ecosystem. I don't even give a crap about apps. But if you advertise something as Windows, and then it can't run Windows applications, it just seems ludicrous.
Yeah, I want to be able to install a real version because, in the industry that I work in, all of our software runs on Windows, real Windows, not RT. And I mean that distinction. And I was just having a discussion today where the president of the company is looking to replace his computer, and there's been talk of, oh, well, maybe we should just give him an iPad. And I said, no, don't give him an iPad, give him a Surface. But I can't really make the argument for a Surface RT because it won't totally replace his computer in the same way that an iPad won't. Now, if the Surface 2 had, a Bay Trail processor in it, and you could actually install real Windows applications, such as our billing clients and all the other things that we run, and hook it up to an Exchange server, then it becomes a real business.
Well, you can hook RT up to an Exchange server. Let's be clear about that. It interfaces with Exchange, as does the iPad.
Well, yeah. Well, it interfaces with Exchange in the same way that an iPad does.
No, but now it has Outlook, so it's going to run a little better.
Right, but yeah, I still think that if it was running a true version of Windows, it would interface better with all of the systems, Exchange being one of them, but other software and programs that we use in the office.
Sure.
And by not, I think it's a massive oversight. And it's almost like Intel just didn't tell Microsoft, hey, by the way, we have this awesome processor that'll be available by the time that you're releasing Surface 2.
And I think it's strange because now Microsoft kind of stands alone in selling RT devices. Dell announced this week that they'd no longer be selling their 10-inch RT tablet.
Acer's never supported them.
Acer's never supported. Lenovo did and then didn't. Asus did and then didn't.
Samsung did because they have no shortage of devices.
And now they don't. So, Microsoft itself stands alone.
The cheese stands alone.
Yeah, the cheese stands alone. And there's rumors that Nokia will be releasing their RT tablet, but again, that's basically Microsoft now. So, I mean, I like the idea of the Surface, and the Surface Pro is, especially since it's running a Haswell processor. It should have decent battery life.
Now, they said it should get about 8 to 9 hours of battery life, and they say about 50% of that is from the Haswell processor itself, and then 50% of that is from optimizations that they've made within the operating system.
But if you bundle that with the new battery cover, the power cover, you're looking at easily 10 to 12 hours of battery life, and they've added new angles on the hinge to make this better for lap viewing.
And that's true of both Surfaces.
True of both Surfaces. So I think that the Surface Pro 2 is one of the most compelling laptops in the market now.
Well, the other thing, the Surface 2 now has a 1920 by 1080 display. Mm-hmm. It has the Surface 2 and the Surface Pro 2 have the same display. Mm-hmm. They also say it's, what was the number? This is totally off the top of my head. 80% more color accurate, I think was the number that they threw out.
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
And they were already bragging on the original screens on the Surfaces.
But again, I go back to hardware's great. There's nothing wrong with that hardware. And the Surface Pro 2 solves the one problem that the original Surface Pro had, which was crap battery life.
Right. Well, yeah.
But they continue to miss the point with RT. And I'm one of the Surface's biggest proponents, right?
We love Surface.
We love it.
I love Surface, which is why I'm not saying much, because I'm pretty much happy with the one I already have.
It was our device.
But I'm pretty much also the only person in the world, as far as I can tell.
Well, I think they made it lighter, too, the Surface 2.
You and Mary Jo Foley just don't need the apps. And if
that's
you don't,
good company to be in.
Yeah, it's a great company to be in. It's a great device.
She has great glasses.
It was our device of the year last year for a reason. But I just think the progress it's made in the market tells more than that. And it's that people, whether I'm not those people, but people want the apps in the ecosystem, and it's just not there.
Well, because Apple has made that sale that apps is what matters. And, Steve Jobs got up there, 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago. How long ago was that?
Long time ago.
Many
He
years
died
ago.
2 years ago.
Oh, man.
Continue to subscribe to the philosophy of Sundar Pichai.
It's the
It's
Veb.
the Veb.
The Veb.
The Veb. But speaking of the Veb, Amazon announced something new that you'll mostly want to use with the Veb.
Yeah, hopefully. This past Tuesday, Amazon debuted 2 new Kindle Fire devices.
Tablet Week!
Yay, tablets! Except none of us, except for Sydney, own one. Yay! Trey killed one.
I'm in the market for a Retina iPad mini.
Yeah, if they come out with one. So, but both devices are called the Kindle Fire HD X.
Ooh, yes.
With one at 7 inches and the other at 8.9 inches. So kind of the same screen sizes that they had in previous devices. The new devices sport a new 2.2 gigahertz Snapdragon 800 processor.
That's a good one.
And a new form factor and a new higher resolution screen. The 7-inch screen is 1920 by 1200, that nice, 16 by 10 resolution, and the 8.9.
That's a big tablet, Jimmy.
Wow.
It's the Dell version, Dell XPS mobile whatever thing.
I love that thing.
Yeah, and then the 8.9 has a resolution of 2560 by 1600. And they're also lighter than their previous generation. The 8.9 weighs 0.82 pounds, so it's the lightest tablet on the market at that size. It's lighter than the previous really light tablet was the Sony Xperia Z, and it was 1.02 pounds. It's really light. If you've ever held one, it's amazingly thin and amazingly light, and this is going to be lighter. So with the new form factor, it's kind of got this bezeled edge on the back, and they've moved some buttons around, but it looks very good. In addition, they also announced new Kindle OS 3, which is based on Android Jelly Bean. And it
Only
includes,
the latest operating systems.
Yeah. Well, they haven't announced Kit Kat yet. They haven't released Kit Kat
True.
yet.
Okay,
So we're still on
fine.
Jelly Bean. Deal with it.
Chocolate is better.
So the new operating system includes a feature called Mayday, which is getting a lot of press. And basically how this is supposed to work, according to Amazon, is that when you press the button that says Mayday, which is up in the little app drawer at the top that controls, brightness, volume, all those things, within 15 seconds of you pressing that button, 24/7, 365, a live person will connect with you and help you. And if you're on a good enough connection, a little video will pop up.
And
Now,
they'll be able to take control of your device as well.
yeah, they'll be able to take control of your device, much like any kind of remote tech support you might have used with, say, any of the real PC makers. Most of them have some system like this. But the big thing is 24/7, 365. Now, Amazon wants you to know that they're not going to be able to see you. Your webcam will not be activated.
So
However,
I can't use this as a Kindle-based version of chat roulette, is what you're telling me.
nope.
Correct.
Darn.
I know.
You could probably find a way.
Jimmy is still disappointed.
I'm still disappointed. So pricing for the new devices has been announced. And with special offers, the new 7-inch tablet is $229, and the 8.9-inch tablet is $379. And the existing Kindle Fire HDs are both still available for, I think, the 7-inch is $139, and the 8.9-inch is $279. But don't quote me on those. So, Trey, does the Mayday button make the Kindle Fire HDX the most compelling Android tablet currently available? Or are they fighting a losing battle against, the Nexus 7, which is also $229?
Now, generally speaking, my feelings towards the Kindle Fire line are the exact opposite of my feelings towards the Microsoft Surface line.
You can burn it to the ground.
I really like the Surface. I really hate the idea
You want
of
to
the
kindle
fire.
a fire?
I want to kindle a fire under that thing because that this idea of this weirdly forked version of Android that's so tightly controlled and that doesn't offer any unique value proposition and is now more expensive than the Nexus 7.
No, it's the same price.
Same price as the Nexus 7.
Yeah, the Nexus 7 2 and the newest Kindle Fire, the Kindle Fire HDX, which has a similar resolution, it's 16 by 10 instead of 16 by 9, are the same price.
Okay, great. Still, just buy a Nexus 7 and be done with it. You can do more with it.
And you'll always have the most up-to-date version of Android.
And you'll always have the most.
It's a Nexus device.
I actually like this Mayday feature. If it works, which apparently it does, good luck on Christmas morning. God bless all of you. God bless you.
All of you
everyone.
people being hired by Amazon.
Oh my God. I mean, half the nation of India is going to be answering really dumb tech support calls at 3 o'clock in the morning India time on Christmas morning because everyone's going to lose their ever-loving mind. I'm really sorry. I really am. That's awful. But it's a great feature. It's crazy town is what it is.
Yeah, there are other things that were included as part of the new Kindle OS 3, one of which was the ability to cache Amazon Prime instant videos
very
on your
useful.
device.
That should have been there from the beginning, you idiots.
Yeah, you really have to ask, what were you thinking, you freaking morons?
You know, like that. So finally, this device makes sense for what it is. I still think this lockdown forked thing is just not necessary when there's such great services available on not Amazon tablets. So, don't get this and be able to do more.
So, Sydney, what do you think? Is this kind of a feature that's good for, your untech savvy grandmother or...
My untech savvy grandmother would never have a Kindle in the first place.
Okay, mine would because she loves reading, but...
Mine loves reading as well, but she would never read a not book.
Fine. Let's go with somewhat tech savvy grandmother that would want the possible reading experience of a Kindle Fire coupled with like, oh, look, I can watch videos on my Kindle Fire thing.
Maybe, but I feel like most of those people are just going to call their grandkids.
I really...
I don't know.
I agree. This is a smart feature, but it's not what pushes me over the edge to actually liking these stupid devices.
If they had released it at $200, I think it would have a good value proposition because then you could
launch
add
it $150. You'd have a value proposition.
I think
bundled in a year of Amazon Prime.
I think that it might still come with the year of Amazon Prime. I don't. Did they get rid of that? The original one did.
I don't think it does.
The original Kindle Fire did.
I don't think it does.
Which was just a BlackBerry playbook.
Yes.
So this is no longer a BlackBerry playbook. So good on you, Amazon.
Yeah, and good on Netflix, and one of Amazon's main competitors in this week's Geeks Anonymous.
Last night, Darth Vader came down from planet Vulcan. It was, without doubt, the worst episode ever.
I think you should call it your grave.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
So 15 years after The Sopranos became the first cable show to win the Emmy for Best Drama, House of Cards blazed the trail for internet-only series, winning 3 Emmy Awards this past Sunday. That's right. Count them. 3. No, none of them were for...
1, 2, 3. I counted them. What's next?
Now, none of them were for Best Drama.
To spell Emmy.
The awards were for Best Directing in a Drama for specifically their first episode, and 2 Creative Arts Awards, whatever that means.
That's like cinematography and casting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was cinematography and outstanding casting.
The crap I do for you.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you. Do we have an Emmy yet? Work harder.
Just don't downplay the creative arts aspect of production. Thank you.
No. The creative arts aspect is very important.
Yes,
However,
very important.
Yes.
Anyways, continue.
So, although they didn't win for the Best Drama Award, which they were in fact nominated for, Netflix is making a big play for original content online with $300 million allocated for House of Cards, Hemlock Grove, and Orange is the New Black, which are 3 of their series. They've also said that they're going to bring 4 original series a year at a minimum, with double that next year.
Wow.
So Netflix sees its biggest competition not from the likes of other internet streaming companies, like Amazon, but for premium cable channels like HBO. So, Sydney, do you think that Netflix can beat HBO in the future of premium video, or do you think that it's only a matter of time before HBO brings their premium catalog to bear on the interwebs?
Well, HBO kind of needs to. I think if HBO wants to be in competition with Netflix, they need to get the internet thing figured out and get it figured out fast. Because at this point, I feel like, we hear many, many stories all the time about how people keep pirating Game of Thrones because realistically, there's not, unless you are, already, to the best of my knowledge, not being an HBO subscriber.
We are actually an HBO subscriber.
Well,
dear.
see, I didn't even know I was an HBO subscriber, so there you go. I don't know what their system is at this point for having access on the internet. You have to be a
you have to
be
right
HBO cable subscriber.
So as far as the what you're paying into this, presumably Netflix is a more affordable option.
Netflix is more affordable and more flexible.
And it also is
they
providing
offer
access to a wider variety of content.
Yes, and less
in
pornography.
addition to the premium content.
And a lot less pornography.
Yeah, I really like. There's a quote from Netflix that said, damn it, I lost it again. Oh, it said, the goal is to become HBO faster than HBO can become us.
Right. And and that's exactly, if HBO wants to become Netflix or to be working in the same field as Netflix, I think they need to think about more flexible streaming options, basically.
Well, I wonder how much HBO can do that right now.
Well, and maybe they're not interested.
HBO makes...
Maybe this is one of those one-sided rivalries.
Yeah. HBO makes so much money off the current cable model at the moment that it's going to take them a long time to shift away from it. I mean, HBO essentially robs you blind for their content, whereas Netflix is trying to be plucky and stand up for consumers for the general. So, I don't know.
That's not... I think that this is really... Netflix is picking a fight with HBO, knowing that HBO is locked in this. HBO has a reliance on the cable networks in order to promote their content. And so
basically it makes Netflix look good that they can say, we're taking on HBO.
Exactly. Now, Netflix is kind of planting that seed that Netflix and HBO are like kind of the same. Mm-hmm. Remember how HBO was 15 years ago with The Sopranos? Yeah, that's going to be us.
Now. In other things that are a bit weird and possibly a bit troubling is this week's Last Call.
I love that part. So as I'm sure everyone knows by now, the Tech's Last Call studio home base is located in Atlanta, Georgia, home of the
satellite office in Houston.
Yes, with a satellite office in Houston. Atlanta is home of the Braves, home of Delta Airlines, and of course the home of Dragon Con. Thank you. So now none of us have ever actually officially attended Dragon Con. But we're
physically within the building.
We were physically within the building last year. We've been around enough in the area to verify that there are some pretty out there costumes that show up at Dragon Con. Some identifiable, some not identifiable, at least by me. So now there's one particular duo of cosplayers whose outfits have attracted some unwanted attention this year. So in order to get the full effect, you really need to go to the show notes and look at the picture that goes along with the story because it's pretty amazing. Basically what happened is two guys decided to dress up as the Atlanta Marriott carpet. So the Atlanta Marriott is where Dragon Con takes place, and the carpet, it looks kind of like a stained glass window, reminds me of a compass kind of design. So these guys have bodysuits that have the pattern of the carpet on them. And apparently they were a big hit at Dragon Con.
It absolutely is hysterical. They blend in like really sweet ninjas. It's
amazing.
Awesome.
They're
it's like the ultimate Marriott
ninjas.
Sniper.
Yeah, it's great.
They're carpet ninjas. So really, those costumes in and of themselves are worthy of a last call. But the story about these guys and their costumes has reached new heights recently, or possibly new lows, depending on how you look at it, when basically after these guys were planning to sell their carpet camo to other con goers because it was so popular, and as they're trying to arrange this, they received a cease and desist letter from the designers of the carpet. So the company that designed the pattern for the Atlanta Marriott carpet had sent them a cease and desist letter. They do not want them to reproduce this fabric. And which is just kind of hilarious because, of all the intellectual property that is just blatantly co-opted by cosplayers at every con ever, it's kind of hilarious that the thing that causes trouble is not the person dressed up as Mr. Spock, not the person dressed up as Ezio from Assassin's Creed, but the guys...
Or slutty female Joker Batman.
Right. But no...
I always like that bizarre combination.
It's the guys dressed up as the carpet.
I guess, honestly, the carpet industry is just not used to being cosplayed and don't understand. Like, there is a certain amount of copyright infringement that goes into cosplay, but it is generally supporting franchises that make their money because people want to cosplay.
And
now,
it
arguably
supports your brand.
Right. Arguably, this carpet company is actually losing money because their pattern is being reproduced. So, I get it.
But it's not like they're using it as carpeting.
But conceivably, it could. It's fabric's fabric. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this...
I'm a man, so therefore, fabric is fabric.
I think it's hilarious that this even came to their attention, but...
Yeah, well, like I said, they really should take it as a compliment, as not many carpets get cosplayed.
Yeah,
I mean, really, that
Carpet of the Year award.
That really should be marked as a new high, not something to attack your fans. Nintendo did that for a while, and they learned their lesson too. And that brings us to the end of another show. Maybe someday the news will get slower and we can have shorter shows. But until then, stick with us. It's going to be awesome. If you have any feedback on the show, as ever, podcast at textlastcall.com, facebook.com/textlastcall, pinterest.com/textlastcall, or at textlastcall on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs.